Thursday, it's the ABC of CBD with the great Mr. Oliver Mammon. I'm Russ Kane. This is coming at you live from London, but it's going out all over the world. And just wait till you hear where our special guest is coming live from. It's amazing. You're listening to Men's Radio Station. We're available on Twitter. You can watch us on our YouTube channel. We're on Facebook. The only place we aren't is on Perseverance on the Mars rover. But apart from that, I think we're just about absolutely everywhere. Before Ollie kicks off, I just wanted to say a huge thank you for all the wonderful comments that we get from all over the world about this show. I really appreciate it. I never dreamed it would be so popular. And it's all down to Ollie. I'm just a passenger here, learning probably along with you guys. This is week 21, 22?
22.
Week 22, and they said it wouldn't last. So I'm hugely excited. Thank you. As ever, let's go over to the CBD guru, the mix master extraordinaire, and I call him that, the mixologist. It's because I like cocktails. Ollie Mammon.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for everyone who's tuned in over the last 22 weeks. We have an awesome episode for you guys here today, or at least I hope it will be awesome. I think it will be awesome. Over the last 3-4 weeks, we've discussed farming in the UK and Europe, and producing a CBD extract and farming hemp and the laws around it. And we met George Botanicals from Sativa Wellness Group, who told us all about his processes and what he's doing with farming in Europe and trying to bring an extract to the UK, and how there are still laws which make it very difficult unless you're GMP compliant. However, there's still a lot of CBD products on the market, and most of our extracts are sourced from America. So today, that's what we've done. Before I dive headfirst into the episode, because I could do that, let's just get a quick word from our sponsor. Then I'll give my introduction, and then we'll go from there. I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD. A product created by users for users. A product at an affordable price, available everywhere, at any time, at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil. No additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service. The cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights for the lowest possible price.
My favorite part of that's a little doorbell. I love that. Ding dong.
But seriously, guys, sign up to the Tincture Club. You've got a QR code here you can scan. Will take you straight to the page. When you do go, remember to type in Men's Radio 10 and you get 10% off your first purchase. And it really is a great product. We've had some fantastic responses from it. Many of the listeners have used it. Loads of people are trying it out, and it really is an affordable and accurate and reliable product. And you should give it a go, because if you're thinking about trying CBD, it's the house blend. So
it's weird you're going to say that. I was just about to mention one of our listeners, Eve Phantom, crazy name, crazy gal. And Eve, I know, that went on to the Tincture Club, and she bought some bath bombs from you guys and absolutely loves them. Chrissy Holt over in Spain was having problems sleeping. She she said, what should I do? I said, talk to Ollie, get some stuff, see how it goes. Sleeping like a baby now. So thank you, Eve, for joining us. That's absolutely wonderful. Ollie, back to you. But it's not just words. These products really are that good. The quality is that excellent. And as Ollie says, use the QR. It's the QR code. Look at me.
Yeah.
Get me. I'm so down with the kids.
Just scan it with your phone.
Yeah, scan it, and you get 10%. You mentioned Men's Radio 10. Get 10% off. Boom. Yeah, off to the races. Okay.
So like I was saying, over the last few weeks, we've discussed growing hemp and manufacturing cannabinoid extracts in the UK, and how it's a very controlled, limited market. You can't, Jamie Bartley was telling us that you can grow hemp here, but you can't actually extract anything from it. So what a lot of people do in Europe is they'll grow their hemp in Europe and ship it off to America, or ship off to a country where extraction is legal. The guest we have today, a guy called Chris Stubbs. He comes from Kentucky. His company is called GenCanna. Over the last 7-8 years, GenCanna has been a very stable supplier of extracts to the UK. Now, let me tell you a little story. 7 years ago, 6 years ago, I went to America. I went to go visit my brother. My brother was living in LA at the time. And when I went out to LA, I was in my buddy's shop, and he comes up to me, he goes, "Check out these products someone's just given me, blah, blah," and puts a lip balm in front of me. And I remember I'm looking at this lip balm and I just basically saw something. I saw a different application for cannabinoids than I'd seen previously. I'd seen something which had almost a multi-purpose use. It could be used for different things. It kind of got my brain working. Over the course of that trip, I met a few people, and my eyes kind of got open to the world of CBD and, like understanding it a bit more. Of course, I'd heard about it, but I mean, just understanding it more. When I got back from America, I reached out to my brother. I was like, look, I need to get my hands on some of that. I reckon I could make those products. I reckon I can make something similar or better. I can't seem to find anything. The biggest issue was 5-6 years ago was finding a product that actually worked for me. It was finding something which was reliable and accurate and consistent, and I couldn't find that. Still to this day, a lot of people are having trouble finding it. I just have myself, which makes my life a hell of a lot easier. Now, the first extracts I ever used were made by my guest today. Now, this is all just kind of like, this all came out in our little conversation, like our pre-show conversation. How long you been at the company for? When did you start? What were you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Because, companies have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of employees. Sometimes it's, sometimes you just get someone, you don't get the right one. And it's pretty awesome that, Chris has been, Chris is a real scientist. He's been involved in this industry for like 20 years, but he's been with GenCanna for like 6, 7. And like I said, my original products, the first products I ever designed, the first capsules, the first tinctures, the first body oils, bath bombs, lotions, creams I ever made were using an extract that Chris made. And I don't know, there's something quite romantic there. Like, I'll be honest with you, it's made me a little bit more nervous for the show. I don't know what it is. It's just made it a little bit more, synergies like this kind of.
I'll tell you what it is. He's American, and if you piss him off, he'll invade your house.
That's mean. Don't be rude, Russ. Russ.
That is a fact.
I'm the one who makes inappropriate comments. You're not allowed to. You're the balancer. You're supposed to hold this thought down, man.
I just wondered why you were nervous. He seems like, we were chatting before the show, he seemed just an absolutely lovely guy.
Not nervous in that way, but it's kind of like it brings back a whole bunch of memories. It's like, I'm sitting on a show now, 7 years down the line. I'm about to have a guest who is the guy who made the extracts that I first started this journey on with. There's something quite romantic there. It's
beautiful synergy. That's what it is. It's beautiful synergy.
So let me carry on my introduction anyway. Sorry, my little tangent. So basically, Chris Stubbs, over the last 7 years, has basically helped GenCanna create this reliable, consistent extract, which has given them the formidable market position which they have in the UK, and which has given manufacturers like myself the ability to provide end users like yourselves the products which you are so reliant on. Now, the products which you find to be consistent and reliable, and the ones which will work for you week on and week out, they usually have a backbone which is stronger than the manufacturer. Like with me, I've got companies like GenCanna behind me, and who supply me the extract, which enable me to supply you the products which are great. And there's this pyramid, do you know what I mean? Like, in the foundation of every incredible product out there is a farm. The role of every farm in this marketplace, the role of every farm out there producing cannabinoids, is to produce a reliable, consistent cannabinoid. Okay, it's all well and good just growing hemp and creating an extract, but you need to be able to create the same extract over and over and over again, so your customers can provide the same products that their end users over and over and over again. So Chris, like I said, has been doing this for a very long time. He's responsible for billions and billions of milligrams of CBD, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of kilos, which have which the world has consumed. Chris is responsible for the manufacture of those. And it's an incredible role. It's an incredible wow, sorry. It's an incredible thing when you think about it, that you have only few of these companies, and as a manufacturer I could tell you there are only few farms who are operating on this level, and there are only few farms who can provide this consistency. And there aren't that many suppliers of this sort of extract. And with pending novel food and potential reclassification about cannabinoids and a general unsteady, uncertain, unreliable market anyway, it's nice to know that you've got something which is reliable amidst all of this chaos, you could say. And it's nice to know you've got someone, something which you as end users and me as a manufacturer can rely on in a market that is so fragile and so ever changing, and and a market which faces so many hurdles that it's actually crazy how many people come and go from this industry, and how much inconsistency there is. So like the topic of today is bringing a consistent, compliant product extract to the UK market. And let's bring out Chris Stubbs and start
what I'd
talking
like
to him.
to do, Ollie, because I've been in this game since 1984, and I've never been able to say this live from Kentucky. Never been able to say that before.
Nice one, Russ.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, Chris.
I think Ollie got a bit got emotional there, Chris.
It's like there are stories coming up, 7 years.
You got emotional there because I think you've seen. I'm not going to do psych on you, but I think you saw how far you've gone from just having a notion to where you are now, which I think is just a fabulous thing.
It's been a long time.
That's another story.
Another story for a different day.
Another story.
Hey, Chris, welcome to the show, man.
What I love you is you're around the corner. Chris Stubbs is in Kentucky, and he looks like the picture's fantastically clear. You see, it's American know-how for you. every time. Every time.
At the house, no devices for this hour. We can be clear as day.
It is clear. It's fantastic. It's as clear as the Mars picture.
You've got to love that.
Congratulations on that. What a feat of genius that is. Anyway, Ollie, back to you.
So, Chris, welcome to the show. Sorry for my over-emotional introduction. I really do apologize. It's just sometimes things get me, okay? And I think that was just one of those moments. Thank you very much for joining us. And, thank you very much for supplying us with extracts. And I'm just going to fire questions at you because I feel like your brain is something they need to hear. So let's just start. Always my first question. How did you get involved in this industry?
It's a loaded question, Ollie, but it really comes from the pursuit of science is number one, top of mind, right? I started as a scientist, or at least the realization I wanted to pursue science really, really young. And somehow cannabis, over my upbringing, kept coming into my life, mostly through family, believe it or not. So it started in a very helpful and healthful place. And as I grew up, went through high school, went into university, I discovered this thing called the endocannabinoid system, and how that really was the answer behind why and how this plant works so well for so many of us. So I dove in college, had a great mentor that studied the endocannabinoid system, allowed me to do preclinical testing work with cannabinoids and the ECS, the endocannabinoid system, and found myself at the end of university being very well positioned to enter the emerging legal, medical, and recreational cannabis space. And it's been an incredible journey. The pursuit of science, coupled with the ability to help people with a natural product, has kept me invigorated and will for the rest of my life. I mean, this is what I want to do, what I've been privileged and humbled to do. And my time here at GenCanna has taken it from, a small lab scale to true agronomic and industrial scale. And along the way, we've attempted to make it as normal as possible. To your point about the lip balm, I didn't really envision that years ago, although in the early days of Colorado legalization, we saw Slurpees, cotton candy, cannabis infused into everything. So I knew that was possible. The global acceptance in consumer packaged goods, cannabinoids have a place. And so my time here has been dedicated to normalization of CBD and hemp-derived cannabinoids by positioning the firm, our processes, our people, our products against existing regulatory frameworks to say, look, we can follow the rules just like anybody else. You make soap, you make sugar, you make vitamin C, we make CBD. and it's all written down. It's all transparent. I think that's part of the mystery, right? The consumer does not have a understanding of the black boxes between the farm and what they are actually using. And we have sought to make that a transparent and respectable process. And I think we've done really well for it. Like you said, billions of milligrams have made it to people's homes and to their mouths and to their bodies safely. And that was the primary goal. You cannot do this work in a predictable and sustainable fashion without starting at the farm and understanding the end, which is consumption.
When you started growing in Kentucky, had they just opened up Kentucky, or were there already farms that were growing there?
So we knew from my time in Colorado and some very humbling and special experiences with children with pediatric epilepsy that there was a true unmet need and a true demand that had just started to be realized. And we knew that we had to get outside. We knew we had to farm because it's just a scale issue, right? We can't be trapped in warehouses, retrofit to grow cannabis and grow hundreds of thousands of kilos of product. It just doesn't work. And so we looked for jurisdictions that had either existing laws on the books or were well poised to make that leap. And when the Farm Bill passed in 2014, which allowed state departments of agriculture and universities to start to research industrial hemp, Kentucky was top of mind. They had a law on the books that said, as soon as the feds pass this law, we're ready to go. And the Department of Agriculture said, come, let's grow a new crop together and figure it out. Plant plants first, ask questions later.
That's pretty cool. So basically you were almost groundbreakers in Kentucky as well. It wasn't even like that, because that's the issue in the UK. The issue in the UK is that there's so much uncertainty. So you said, like basically check the black boxes. All right. At least you have black boxes to check. You have these, you have these boxes. They might be a pain in the ass. There might be 1,000 subcategories underneath it. But unfortunately in the UK and in Europe, as we were discussing earlier in the week, and we've discussed over the last 5-6 weeks with Jamie and with Quentin from Spectrums and with George, with all these different farmers, with Alex last week, the boxes aren't there. The framework is okay. So you almost have like the page saying checklist, but there's nothing on the checklist yet. That doesn't mean there's nothing on the checklist. It means there's nothing there yet. You know what I mean?
Well, and we have been privileged to help make that checklist, either ourselves or through lobbying efforts. We've brought regulators and enforcement officials to our facilities time and time again to say, look, this is how we do this. There's no secrets here. I've hosted large delegations from the USDA, the FBI, the DEA, the Sheriff's Department, the cops, the judges, the clerks. I mean, and it's nerve-wracking from time to time because these are the people that have been on the other side of the coin. They want nothing more than what everyone wants, which is to help each other, be healthful. And frankly, when they have those experiences with cannabis, generally, medical, rec, hemp-derived, I'm going to blur some lines here, although our business is very focused on what is federally legal and compliant here in the States and worldwide. When people have that experience, it changes their minds and it changes their lives. And what do? They seek that solution over time. And I thought, what better way than to get outside and do this at scale and build refinement facilities and formulations facilities and testing facilities that validated all of that work and allowed us to change people's lives. And our Medallion friends, right? They've got the ECS too. So
Kentucky, in Kentucky, when you kind of brought this, like we started growing, I assume you almost, created jobs, created an infrastructure. I assume that these you didn't go and cut down a whole bunch of tomato fields and start growing hemp. I assume the farms were, unused agricultural land, and you almost brought a purpose back to an area which was purposeless before. Not saying Kentucky's purposeless. It has the best bourbon in the world. If it ain't from Kentucky, you can't call it bourbon. There are enough things that, I like Kentucky. Okay. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan. I don't mean that in a negative way. Just talking about like in terms of boosting economies, I assume you guys did that, right?
Well, let's
farmers a purpose.
There's risk in this. Now, what is that's Russ, come on. That's Tennessee.
Yeah, but we're from London, so we assume that like saying Kentucky and Tennessee is like Croydon and Peckham. You could get there on a bus in 10 minutes. It's probably 8 billion miles away. I know.
There's only one color of blue here. I'll tell you that much.
What does that mean? There's one color. Oh, that's a good. What does that mean?
Kentucky Wildcats. So years ago, they're absolutely here. We are fanatics for the Kentucky Wildcats, and that's a certain shade.
Is that baseball, football?
Right. Forgive us. We don't know what that is. Is it tennis, golf?
Golf.
Is it a cricket team?
Tennis. It's definitely tennis. Chess. It's definitely a chess team. It's a
local chess team.
The local debating squad. No? Roller derby.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
It's definitely roller derby. I saw a documentary on this. Some fans are going to come set fire to my house. This is not good. Like the Wildcats, like of London, are going to come kill me. Yeah. I love you, Wildcats. Go Cats.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, we're fine.
No, it's good. It's good. It's just there's definitely pride, just like with football. Like there are lines here that you don't cross. And I showed up. I showed up to a meeting with a more of a North Carolina blue on, not a deep Kentucky Wildcat blue on, and I got some looks.
I'm joking.
I tell you what, Chris, when you next come to the UK, when you next come to the UK, and we'll all hook up, you can come to near where I am, and there's a charming and elegant football club called Millwall.
Millwall.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you into the local pub, Chris.
Nicest
with all the
people.
Millwall supporters, and you're going to go, come on, Arsenal, and then Ollie and I are going to run.
We're going to teach you a song. We're going to teach you a song. It's called Forever Blowing Bubbles. Okay. And you're going to walk into Millwall singing, I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the air. We fly so high, they reach the sky. No, seriously, it's football hooliganism.
How long do you think Chris Stubbs would be alive if he did that?
To be honest with you, he looks pretty scrappy. He looks pretty scrappy.
He doesn't.
I think
not against the Millwall supporter, he doesn't.
He's farm strong. Do you not understand this? He's farm strong. He's a scientist.
I was going to say I'm nerd strong. There's a difference between farm strong. And listen, all credit due to the team, right? This is not just a me thing. This is an incredible effort that takes a lot of time, countless hours. I mean, you spoke with one of my colleagues the other day,
and we're going to bring this guy on. This guy's called Chris Macaluso. Is that right? Did I pronounce that right? Macaluso?
That's right.
And Chris Macaluso. He is an incredible green-blooded farmer. We're going to bring him on in a few weeks' time. I chatted with them together, and I was like, we need to split this. There's too much going on. So Chris will be here in a few weeks' time, and he really is just like his brain is just like whoa. It's like a magical botanist. He's like a botany wizard, like Gandalf the botanist.
It's brains together, and you've got GenCanna. Exactly. You've got global supply of cannabinoids. I mean, it's been a very humbling experience. And to your question, we didn't do this all ourselves, right? There was a clear unmet need, and still is, in farming. We just so happen to be oversupplied at the moment. But tobacco farms here, there's people for generations that have been struggling and looking for new crops, and they still are. Hemp is not the only answer, but it's certainly a viable one over time. And we're in this very volatile period where demand and supply and regulations and global compliance is still maturing. And so what we did was say, look, you guys know your farms the best. We know cannabis really well. Why don't we put 2 and 2 together and help each other successfully grow this crop so that when we extract it and we refine it and we formulate with it and we come ask for accreditation of our facilities and our farms, it's the same. It's the same next quarter. It's the same next crop year, right? How is Procter & Gamble going to say, sure, I'll put this in my product if it's,
I know what you mean.
different. So we've been able to normalize that. And what the farmers here in Kentucky, what we have previously monikered the Certified Farming Network, have been just an amazing group of folks that have been able to bring this to life. And it has allowed us to move downstream and get this into places like the UK by engineering compliance from the very start.
Let's rewind a little bit. Sorry. No, go on, Ross. Ask your question, and then I'm going to rewind.
I'm a real outsider to this because, Ollie, I've just been a passenger when I first was introduced to Ollie, and I thought, okay, I know nothing about this subject. So the last 22 weeks have been dazzling for me.
Now he's an active CBD user.
Absolutely.
I know, so is his doggy, and so is his dog.
Doggy as well.
Exactly. Proper family, CBD family. I love it.
The point I was going to make, Chris, is the way that I understand this idea of consistency, and this may seem silly, but it will make sense, is that my guilty pleasure are Cuban cigars from Havana. I know in America that's a problem, but not over here in London. And if you don't get that consistency of the leaf, if you don't get that consistency of the tobacco from the great tobacco growers of the Havana cigar industry, it causes a huge furore, and the word gets out. Don't have XYZ companies this year because it's not good. So I totally understand what you're getting if it doesn't sound too tangential.
Well, and it's not only sorry, go on, Chris. It's thanks. It's really has to be an understanding of the scale that you're operating at, how you validate each part of that process, and where your levers are, right? You might have something that goes wrong in the field. You might have something that doesn't quite meet, to the nines, but we have ways of pulling levers and ensuring that, hey, the output remains the same once again. And that's particularly true with purified compounds, but standardizing extracts is very possible too, so that we maintain that level playing field. And that's where I think Ollie would agree with me. There are certain companies and people that do parts of this really, really well. And we've had to refocus our own efforts to do parts of it really, really well. It's rare to find a much more holistic approach where everything's done really, really well wherever we do it. But I and our team are not the kind of people to say, we've done it, it's all over, right? This is still maturing, and the pursuit of science and the scientific method is knowledge and truth. Absolutely. And there's still a lot more to learn, brothers. A lot more to go.
Let me just say, we have a very interactive show here, Chris. So Michael Adair is saying, Lord Science, when he saw you. So that's cool. Luke Francis, shout out to Chris and our friends across the pond. Thank you all, which is lovely. Now, a regular to Men's Radio, and this is the sort of effect that you guys are having. This is a chap called Barry J. Allen, not the Flash, but we always call him the Flash.
Barry Allen.
And when he's on the other show, when he's on the Daily Show, we always play the theme tune from Flash by Queen. Anyway, here's a question. Now, I've replied, but you're the experts and I'm just the passenger. Barry Allen says here, here's a question. 3 years ago, I had a brain tumor removed. I've still got a bit of it left. Presumably that's a tumor, not your brain now, Barry. And it's being watched. But ever since, my sleep is terrible. Would this help? Sorry to disturb you, Russ. You're not disturbing ever.
Never disturbing.
No comments are ever disturbing. We love having your comments. I've written back and said, yeah, I'm sure it would, but I'd like to hear it from an expert. I'm just the punter. So, Chris.
So I'm going to have to be a little ambiguous here, and I apologize for that, because with my position and what we do in the regulatory environment that we're subject to here and even there as manufacturers, I can't make a claim on the product, right?
Fair enough.
Can't market it in this way, but I will say something. All I can say.
No, I was going to finish your point, and then I'll talk to the dudes.
I think that the short answer is most definitely, probably. You can't figure it out for yourself until you have a product you can rely on. And that's the key with Oliver's approach. That's the key with our approach, is saying, here's a product that could potentially help you. Now, we're going to give you some guidance on how to figure that out, because frankly, some folks are sensitive to CBD like they are to caffeine, and they have to figure, I'm taking it no past 8 o'clock in the morning, or it's going to mess up my circadian rhythm. Others, like me, I can drink espresso and go to sleep. I don't know what to do. It's a weird deal, right? And so you have to, and this is what we did.
Is that not normal? Like espresso and then bed? I thought everyone does that. It's like a standard, right? Double espresso, go to sleep.
I know a lot of people that don't do that.
I don't know what it is. Very strange. Cappuccino before bed is like a normal, right?
Yeah, it is. I begin to see why we get on this show.
There we go.
There we are.
The hypeness. No, so listen, let me take this. Okay.
Yeah.
I would always say, why are you not sleeping? Because if you're not sleeping because of immense amounts of pain, that's one thing. If you're not sleeping because of stress, that's another thing. If you're not sleeping because of anxiety, it's something else. If you're not sleeping because you don't want to sleep, because you've got a fear of sleeping, that's another thing completely. And if you're not sleeping because your bed's uncomfortable, that's also something else. Now, it's all about understanding what the reasons are. Now, I don't mean to sound like it sounds rude. It's the same conversation I had with Russ. I was like, if you have issues related to anxiety, overthought, over stress, there are studies, there are hundreds of thousands of people who have used CBD for anxiety-based reasons. I can't tell you that the product will work, but I'm saying the chances are it will, because everyone who seems to use CBD for anxiety seems to get a benefit. The issue is that you've mentioned tumor. And because you mentioned tumor, it's got me thinking that I don't want you thinking that I can say CBD will be able to cure your tumor. Do you understand what I mean? I don't want to say that.
No,
okay.
No.
And if you're not sleeping because of something the tumor is doing to your brain, I also don't know if CBD will help with that. I really don't know. I know that it would, like for me, when I'm anxious, CBD helps me sleep. I use other ingredients on top of it. I'll use terpenes, and I'll use like a lavender or a lilanol, and I'll use some form of chamomile or something like that in order to give it a bit more of a softness. Add it to my double espresso, sleep like a baby. Do you know what I mean? But it's like I'm saying, that's the conversation. If you want to send me an email, man, I'll very happily chat with you. And to be honest with you, I'll send you a bottle for free just to mess around. I'll make you something like I made Russ. It's fun for me. And then if it works, we know the answer to your question. Until like you try it and you let me know, you're the only one who can really answer your question. I can just facilitate that answer in the most affordable way possible. Do you understand what I mean? That's probably the best way of doing it.
You wouldn't get this on any. I'm serious, and I'm not giving myself a hernia by patting myself on the back, but you wouldn't get this sort of level of care on any other radio station. You wouldn't. You know, Barry has been really loyal to us, and Ollie, that's a really lovely thing to do.
No, but that's the easiest way. But like I said to you, it's the same. Look, you just said to me,
you can't hurt.
Look, like I'm saying, I just gave your dog something for something he's got. I've got no idea if it's going to help him or not. But the only way we're ever going to find out if this compound helps that issue is if we try that compound that issue.
She's been like a puppy. She's 12.
I want to rewind something. This is very important because I want to discuss this. So I don't know. I'm going to let Chris tell this story, okay? And I'm going to let him tell him whichever detail he wants. But he touched upon this. When you were living in Colorado, you formulated products for and you helped people who were not well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
I can, absolutely.
Because it's all about the understanding, you know, like it's like I said, this like I always ask this question, like, why do you do what you do? You know, I ask you what your driving force is, but I mean, like, why do you do what you do? I do what I do because I found that CBD really helped me as a person with my twitches, with my Tourette's, with my general Oliverness. I found it really helped me. Okay. And I found that CBD has helped other people. And I like understanding how a CBD product can help you with other ingredients which are added to it in order to give you the desired effect. I like creating products with a purpose. That's why I'm here. Why are you here? Do you understand? I think people need to know that.
Yeah, very similar. And I think when you couple that with the pursuit of science, truth, knowledge, and you're able to play with plants, play with equipment, to play with testing and analytics and see that impact in humans and animals, your cup stays full, as I say, right? And that's a really nice feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, back in Colorado, this is in the medical cannabis, days, right when this whole thing first started. I was asked to build a laboratory to test the amount of cannabinoids in the plants, in the extracts, in the finished goods. And at that time, the understanding of these molecules and their chemical and physical properties was abysmal. And so you had folks, fighting the oil and water problem, which we still fight today. There are oils. I want to put them in waters. It doesn't mix. It sticks to the container. It's just a mess, right? So I got to experience the birth of an industry and the birth of brands and the birth of product types that you've referenced and now do extremely well, Ollie. I mean, it had to start in that place with us knowing what was in the product. So this goes on for a few years, and I'm able to help a lot of people as a scientist by saying, this grower is real. This extract is real. It's going to be here tomorrow. You know what I mean? If you find a solution for someone and then it's not a solution tomorrow, that's an issue. So this is a theme, right? Sustainability. So years on, I meet a group of growers, a group of brothers, the brothers Stanley, who brought in a bunch of cannabis strains, some of which tested very high in CBD and very low in THC. And around this same time, a couple of weeks prior, I had met a very young girl named Charlotte, who is the
poster child for CBD. She was the girl who started it all. She was like the first media campaign who brought CBD as an anti-epileptic compound. Right. You know, that she was like she is the educational platform which a lot of our world has been built on. You know, kids like Taneen's daughter. It wouldn't surprise me if Taneen only knows about this because of Charlotte. You know, like it's sorry for interrupting.
That's right. I mean, her story sparked the demand and the curiosity. Canada's helped me, you know. So long story short, I spent a considerable amount of time with her and her parents one afternoon discussing CBD and whether it was an option, where they could find it, how they could test it. Was it going to be psychoactive or toxic or interfere with the other drugs she was on? And the answer is very similar to the previous answer with the sleeplessness. There's only one way to find out. So let's help you find out. So I, having tested the brother strains and worked with them through the process of how to extract and how to refine and test the extracts and normalize everything, I made her first tincture. And a few weeks later, we started to see results. And a few weeks after that, the message started to grow. And months after that, I was on a podcast just like this talking about it with the brothers. And then CNN publicizes it. And there's now tens of thousands of people on a waiting list trying to get access to this product.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta did that. Like, he did that special. I think it's got something like 63 million views on YouTube or something insane like that. You know, most people who know anything about CBD know about the story of Charlotte and Charlotte's Web. You know, It's like that story. It's Chris did the formulation. You know, this dude's the man. Like, he's the absolute man. Do you understand? Like, it's hence my emotion at the start. This, like, you can't think of this dude. You can't be in this industry and not think of Mr. Dude right here and not get a little bit emotional. Do you know what I mean? It's incredible.
It's true. I cannot take, again, it's a team effort. Again, there was an unmet need. Again, I was at ground zero and did so much of this testing work to call BS and say what's real and help people find their solutions and iterating on this same thing over and over again, and then saying, you know what, let's take this outside. Let's go big. There will never be another waiting list again. That was the inspiration. And I don't know, brothers, it's been a very humbling experience. And every business has its challenges. Every individual has their challenges. I mean, Ollie, we've talked about regulatory. That's extremely challenging. But we've now seen acceptance of this product, of this molecule, and all its other friendly molecules, just grow and grow over time. And it's very humbling work, and we call it stewardship. We have to be good stewards of this work, because all eyes are on us, right? There are people that want us to fail for a number of reasons. I mean, we've had our own business struggles.
Most people who are your competitors want you, like your colleagues want you to fail, let alone the people outside the industry. I mean, it's one of the hardest industries to circumnavigate. I mean, you've got cutthroats and villains within, you've got cutthroats and villains on the outside, you've got the law, when you're afraid of the law, you're afraid of your competitors. I mean, look, I've been in the industry for 5 years now, 6 years. Okay. 5 years properly, and over the last 5 years, the amount of different law changes, which I have just seen happen. So, I mean, there was a 3-year period between 2018 and 2021 where isolate was banned in foods. It wasn't, but that was like the law in the UK. If you're caught using isolate in food, your brand's going to get shut down. It wasn't a law, but that was one of the laws. Do you know what I mean? Now they've come out and said, actually, if you're using a full spectrum, the chances are it contains THC. The chance are it's illegal. It's actually, to be honest with you, I don't think you're going to be able to get through novel food with that. So all the laws have now then spun on its head. And now imagine what that does for business. You create a product, people get used to it. Then you have to change it out of fear that you're actually doing something wrong and your clients are breaking the laws. Then you change it. Right. You go through that whole process of, hey guys, I had to change the product for your protection, for my protection, blah, blah, blah. They don't like the product. You lose all your clients. You get a whole bunch of new clients. Okay. And then what happens is you find out you never had to change in the first place. But that was just, these are the laws that get thrown at you,
That's a really interesting point, I think, because we had this debate years ago at GenCanna. Was it full spec? Was it isolate? Does the entourage effect, which is the combination of multiple cannabinoids and terpenes working together, is that better than isolate? And my case was, guess what? We can do both. And we can do it in a bunch of different formats because guess what else?
Everything has its purpose.
Exactly. And there are people in this world that can't have any THC in their bloodstream, and there are people that can swim in it. So let's build like that one, Russ?
Send me a swimming pool. Show me the swimming pool. I'll dive head first.
These phrases are fantastic.
So we thought build the foundation, build the platform, what we call the GenCanna production platform, to be flexible, to be predictable, to be able to change as laws change. And now with our interaction with our friends across the pond, there's different levels, what we call, THC free or broad spectrum here. You guys have it's a hard number, and they're trying to lobby
0.02, but now it's going down to 1 milligram a container. Now 1 milligram a container, they're not specifying container. It's like if someone asks you for a bucket of cake, you're like, sorry, what's a bucket of cake? Like, how do you contemplate a figure of how can you contemplate a weight or a measure without being given a weight or a measure? So it's like saying how much does a bucket of bricks weigh? Sorry, what?
Are you serious? It's that vague.
UK law is so vague. Apparently, I found out something new last week. CBD as an edible is fully illegal in Europe. Apparently. I've only found out from some people, and apparently has to be synthesized. So I heard it from one person, but apparently it's facts. And he showed me a document which looked pretty real. So now I'm sitting there like, oh my God, like a whole bunch of, there go the laws.
Chris, I'd like to ask a couple of questions, if I may, firmly wearing my punter's hat, as we say. Number one, you've alluded to your company and everything like this. I know Ollie's clearly in awe of it, which sounds great, because if he's impressed, I'm impressed. How many people have you got? I mean, how many people are involved in the organization?
We're around 50 at the moment.
That's good.
As about 6 times that. and which just speaks to the volatility of the industry. It's extremely unpredictable. We all have risk. I've lost my ass a couple times, but I'm still here. I mean, there's there's nothing better than being able to passionately do what you want to do.
Totally.
And there are days when I sit down at the end of the day with a very tall glass of bourbon and say, ugh! And there are other days where I'm just like, this was great. So this is called life, right, Russ?
Yeah, it is. It is. By the way, I've got to come back to the bourbon thing. I was at a meeting, which was a sort of social thing, and I'm sitting next to this guy, and he's coming from America. It was Mr. Beam, as in Jim Beam. He was the last, like, one of the last in the family. Most
Nice.
charming guy.
Yeah.
Charming guy.
Did he speak
my
with a beautiful Southern accent?
He was delightful.
You must love that.
And like yourself, Chris, incredibly,
from the South, yo.
done all this and just incredibly modest and, low key about it.
Americans are the best. When you find the good Americans, I mean, they're just awesome. Like the Stetson wearing, the Stetson wearing.
350 million of them.
I just love it.
I can agree. My daughter's American, so there we go. Now, another question I've got for you. One of the things which has stunned me, and it's been my education that Ollie has taken me through, metaphorically holding my hand. And I just want to ask you this, Chris. I have been amazed that when you've got especially children, babies, little kids, and then we had someone who was 81, and clearly the CBD is improving their quality of life. There's no ifs or buts. It is. Okay? And yet there's this huge resistance to letting them just, they're not selling
Not
it,
CBD,
they're not
THC,
dealing
Russ.
it.
Russ,
Yep.
what's it called? Philip was using a full cannabis.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yes,
so
he
CBD is fully legal, but the epileptic kids, they're using a majority CBD blend. I mean, it has negligible amounts of THC in it, and they are still, the hoops they've got to jump through to get that CBD product insane. So I just thought I'd correct you, but carry on, Russ. I'm sorry.
No, you're quite right, and thank you for that, because we do want to be legal about it. But my question to you is this, Chris. In America, is there still this sort of pushback from no, you got to have big pharma, you've got to have the pharmaceuticals. We don't recognize this as being helpful.
So it changes every day, and it's changed greatly over time. And I've frankly have been flabbergasted. I myself have testified, in state senates and houses and rulemaking committees where the law's about to change. There's a proposal in front to regulate the industry. And this particular example is in medical cannabis, but it floored me, Russ, because you have the Chief of Police Association there to lobby against the bill. And I'm there to say, look, we can practically figure this out together. And by the way, you guys already decriminalized the possession of an ounce or less. So running a red light is more egregious than having an ounce of weed. And now you're going to sit here and tell us that we can't, meaningfully produce something. After the hearing, the head of the Chief of Police Association comes up and says, so my dad's pretty sick, and I'm wondering if you can get me something. This is what we're here to discuss, man. So times are a-changing, and the FDA here has not made up their mind quite yet on what the definitions should be, but they are actively regulating the industry. Our state Department of Health and our state regulators have been extremely excited about, yet responsible with how they regulate us. And the FDA, I think, is looking to novel foods as a very interesting way of doing this, right? Their concerns are about safety of the products. And my argument to this is, look, if we can demonstrate some safety and we can demonstrate that we can produce these products in accordance with what we call good manufacturing practices, which exist for foods, another set exists for supplements, and another set, even more stringent, exists for pharmaceutical production. So if we know how the product is grown and produced, and it's very well documented and controlled, then you've got the answer, right? You can say it's safe, safely produced, and resoundingly similar batch to batch and lot to lot. You have mechanisms to recall a product if you had to. What I'm saying is we normalize this just like everything else people take. Vitamin C supplement, what's the big deal? This should be no different. And so we have invested very heavily in toxicology work and stability work to show that these products are safe and that there's no arsenic or lead or residual solvents or microbiology concerns with the ingredient that Ollie might use to formulate and with the finished goods that Ollie formulates. As an example, we have to we spend more damn money on testing than you would believe.
You probably spend more money on testing than you do on anything else. We worked out that the amount of money we spent on testing, we could have bought a Tesla. Okay, and then when you figure that out, you're like, oh my god, should have just not tested anything. Been rolling around in a Tesla, I would have been happier. Okay,
this is the way of the world. You have to ease those concerns, and so what we have become BRCGS accredited, which you all might recognize more than a lot of our folks here, but it dictates a logical, risk-based approach to your internal standards. And every year an auditor shows up. There's one due here just in a couple of weeks, and they give you the ringer for 2-3 days. If there's an issue, they're going to find it and they'll take your accreditation. But the purpose of those independent third-party accreditations, Russ, is to say, look, we can do this and we can change minds. There's always going to be sentiment against it, just like there was with prohibition of alcohol, right?
Yeah.
People have their strange notions, religious, spiritual, political, otherwise bad personal experiences. But when the evidence really builds and builds and builds, time's going to change.
If you actually thought about it, I mean, so like as someone who's watched the CBD industry, grow in the UK, and to be honest with you, like having my brother in America, I watched the cannabis industry over the last 10 years grow as well. And as someone like you who's watched the cannabis industry grow over the last 20 years, I mean, I kind of like the fact that these protocols are being brought in. It's like, it makes me think that one day you will be able to walk into a Walmart, a Tesco, and Asda. All right, Tesco, Asda is our equivalent of Walmart. Walk up to the pharmaceutical section, where they've got your ibuprofen and your paracetamol just sitting there on the shelf, and you'll have your ibuprofen, paracetamol, CBD.
That's precisely how this has
cannabidiol.
We
the API idea. This is what you were saying, and it's the right way. Like who wants a bathroom formulated product? Who wants something that's made in a kitchen with doggies running around? I mean, like who wants that?
Right.
Like it's insane, but that's what the market's been built on. But I like this idea of, grassrooted people stepping it up a notch because we can. There's no reason we can't. If everyone else can, we can also bring that quality,
So that's essentially what we've seen manifest itself as ingredient suppliers, as formulators, as someone that we contract manufacturers as well. Like we can't do it all. There are pros that make, say, a soft gel capsule as an example. Why build a facility just to do that when there are pros? It was about convincing them that our ingredient was legal, compliant, well characterized, and able to be brought into their facility so that they could make the soft gel that could then be in the grocery store, pharmacy, over the counter. The same is true for those retailers and for those brands. They show up and do a vendor approval audit and give us the business for 2 or 3 days and tour the site and go through all of our documents to say, you know what? This is real, backwards and forwards. And the risk associated with this ingredient or this product is low enough for us to incorporate it into our finished goods and thereby increase access to quality cannabinoids. That's my mission in life, increasing access to quality cannabinoids. And without work and building the foundation, you can't do that. So
you're doing well, man. That's all I want to say is you're doing well. Like I've seen your footprint, and fact of the matter is there's this consistency, which I'm going to go on to again. It all starts with this consistency in order to end up with that final product coming out of the capsule maker, which is perfect. And every capsule is exactly 25 milligrams. And you've given them an SOP to follow the math. You've given them an extract to go with that SOP. If that extract isn't what you say it is, then no matter how much you follow the math, you're never going to come up with the right product. And it's all about the starting foundation of the extracts we use. And, you know, like being able to dream big and think, you know, one day I'm going to be able to walk into any shop and there will just be CBD on the shelf as a standard, not some 75-pound, 1,000 milligram, which you know is extortionately priced. You know it's insane. You know that it's market manipulation and corruption. Like a standard product which anyone can use. I mean, like you need to have this standardization, this compliance, this consistency, this reputation for being reliable in order for the companies to even humor the idea, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And you touched on something that I still struggle with, because I see these product launch press releases and I see the retailers and the online sales promotions, and I don't understand, if you're in need, how you can afford some of the products out there. And that's
Precisely.
a coming goal
Precisely.
is to make that change, because it's all for naught if you can't actually buy it, right? So I think we work as an industry to make that more affordable, more accessible. It's going to happen naturally anyway, but
everything happens with time.
Too. Our CEO is going to kill me.
The more it's accepted, by the general population, the more you can produce, you know, the cheaper the price will come down. The more, you know, a lot of money is spent almost educating and, you know, almost fighting this resistance, you know, like 30 quid in every tincture is probably spent convincing people that they need that tincture. As soon as people don't need the convincing anymore, the prices will come crashing down. It's like if you had to tell someone they need an ibuprofen every time they had a headache, ibuprofen would be 16, 17 pounds a packet if that much marketing had to go in behind it, if that much education had to go behind it. So like, I don't want to say the users are making it difficult, but if there were more users taking this on who were educating other users, so brands didn't have to market, then they wouldn't have the excuse for why the price was so high. Because that's always the excuse for every product being expensive on the marketplace is, it's branding. Because branding costs money, you know, like marketing costs money. SEO costs money.
Part of my thought on this too is how many times is the ingredient brokered and tested?
Oh, so many times.
How many buried costs are there in? Oh, it is what you say it is. Okay, well, I'm going to test it, and then
1,000%.
On. It crosses 16 hands before it gets to someone like you or someone like us who formulates it. It's crazy, but it is normalizing, Russ. I mean, to your question, it is getting more and more normal by the day. You just have to, I mean, the more we are able to directly interact with regulators, directly interact with producers and consumers, you just start to thread it all together. So there's a new common understanding of what we're doing. And that's what we seek to do is educate.
Well, I want you to know the effect you're having on our listeners and people viewing. Ed Grossman, Russ, this is a very seriously great show. So
amazing! I love compliments.
Thank you. I don't, it was aimed in Kentucky, wasn't it?
I don't care. I'm taking it, man. I'm taking it.
That's
one
great.
of the things, Chris, and you are
You're awesome.
Absolute exemplar of this, is that I had no idea the sort of folk that Ollie Mammon was going to bring onto the show. I mean, I was full of trepidation. It's not an area I know anything about. So as I said, 22 weeks has been a rocket ride for me. But everyone who comes on is so erudite, is so articulate, is so passionate, is so genuine. And it comes from, and I know this sounds ridiculous, but it comes from a good place. It's not about just making money. It's coming from a good place. And that's what's so fantastic. It really is.
I really appreciate that. I mean, I think I spoke with Ollie for all of 2.7 minutes before I was like, this is a brother. You know, like you just link with these people so easily. And there are potholes, as we would say, out there. There are people that are opportunistic and taking advantage of every angle. But what we say as industry stewards, we'll be here at the end of every day. And we're
that's a beautiful way to leave this show. Chris Stubbs, all the way from Kentucky. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for joining us. Ollie
I
Mammon,
love that beautiful prose.
As always, it's a pleasure. Till next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Chris.